Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
And those minutes have been approved and accepted. At this time, we have reports from our officials, or I'm sorry, our committees. Who would like to go first with committee reports? Mr. Clay.
City Services does not have any items on the agenda tonight, but I do want to report on assignment number 1725, a request for legislation to establish a curbside recycling program. We did have our first meeting, committee meeting on that assignment this evening prior to the council meeting. I thought it was a very, probably one of our best committee meetings out of City Services for sure. We got a lot of attention and a lot of people interested in this topic. The mayor provided a proposal and gave us a presentation, a pretty complete presentation on what that proposal is. At that meeting, we decided to go ahead and move forward with the administration seeking bids on that, on the recycling program, on tipping fees and haulers, so that we can get a better idea of what the cost is going to be to the city. So once we get responses to those, we'll know a bit better where we stand and what the program will cost and what it will look like, and we'll be able to proceed from there. But it was a very positive meeting, and I appreciate everybody that came out in support of recycling. I think it's something that the community's been asking for some time, and I know that Beth Neal's very near and dear to her, so it was a pleasure to have her join the committee on that assignment. That completes my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other committee reports? Yes, Mr. Florina.
Thank you, President Arnold. Safety Services has one item on the agenda for the evening. It's to appropriate $1,200 for the annual service and support for the Marks radios used by the Chillicothe Municipal Court. It's a statewide program. It's pretty much house cleaning. It's something that they use every year, and they have an invoice for it. So at the appropriate time, I will ask to waive the 3-read rules in order for them to pay. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Florina. Any other committee reports? Yes, Ms. Senior.
Thank you, President Arnold. Development Committee has one item on the agenda. It's number 5 at first reading. It's to accept and appropriate $5,396.85 received as payoff of a chip mortgage. This is for somebody that had gotten a chip grant and sold their house, so they're repaying that mortgage, that payoff amount, and it goes back into the chip fund. And so that this money can go back into the fund at the appropriate time, we'll ask to waive the 3-read rule.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other committee reports? Yes, Ms. Corcoran.
Yes, Parks and Rec Department, item number 8 this evening, to appropriate $200 to the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund to cover income tax collection fees due to the Central Collection Agency. It's pretty self-explanatory. Also, item number 9, grant use of the city park and surrounding streets for preparation, operation, and cleanup of the annual Feast of the Flowering Moon from Wednesday, May 24th, 2017 through Monday, May 29th, 2017. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might be their 38th year. So it's been a long-standing event in our area.
That's great.
Oh, okay. And I'd also, I've just been informed on line number 8 that we would like to waive the 3-read rule at the appropriate time, President Arnold.
Okay.
And we have some special guests this evening, but we'll present them later in the meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Any other committee reports? Mr. Kroll?
The Finance Committee has a number of items on tonight's agenda, starting with item number 1, which is its second reading, authorize the appropriation of funds from safety levy to general funds on an ongoing monthly as-needed basis to prevent monthly negative cash balances within the general fund. Item number 2, which is its second reading, approving the upgrade of telephone and internet services for numerous city offices. and appropriating $19,226.40 for costs related to those upgrades. There is also item number 4, which is a second reading, authorizing the mayor to contract with Walter H. Drain Company to update the codified ordinances, to prepare up to 40 sets of replacement pages, and to update the codified ordinances of the city of Chillicothe on the internet. There's also item number 7, which is to appropriate $6,400 for refunds of deposits for overpayments to the refuse collection portion of the utilities department for the remainder of calendar year 2017. At the appropriate time, I will ask that we please waive the 3-read rule for item number 7. And item number 10, to a resolution strongly opposing a portion of the Ohio Governor's proposed 2017-2018 budget, which proposes centralized collection of net profit tax returns and other provisions related to the municipal income tax, which will cause a substantial loss of revenue needed to support Ohio municipalities. Oh, gosh. And that, municipalities, yes, thank you. I got my tongue tied. That will conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Any other committee reports? Mr. Tatman?
Thank you, President Arnold. Since there's one left, I'll take it. Number 3, the second reading on a traffic light that's being removed at the intersection of Hickory and 8th Street. They will be replaced by 4-way stop signs. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tatman. Yes, Mr. Clay?
I'm sorry, President Arnold, I failed to mention in my committee report that we do have an ongoing assignment with city services for these facilities plan. And we do have some information that council will need to discuss in executive session, so I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we'll be calling executive session after legislation.
After legislation, okay, very good, thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Yeah, yes.
I will add that because of the timing, we will need to waive the 3-read rule for item number 10.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you very much. Then we move on to our reports of our officials. First official is our mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney. And the floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, President Arnold. Just echoing Councilman Clay's report on tonight's recycling meeting in the City Service Committee. I was happy to see it so well attended. Great questions. We will continue to move forward with those requests. The PowerPoint, if you weren't able to attend the meeting, will be on the city website and potentially on the Chillicothe Gazette website sometime tomorrow. So we look forward to any more questions that generates, and we'll continue moving forward on some of those quotes. Just speaking in support of the items going forward for tonight, the waiver of the 3-read rule and any other items that are passing tonight. I would like to use the rest of my time and relinquish it to Parks and Recreation Director Bill Bonner and Councilwoman Steele Corcoran. We have the pleasure tonight of having a couple members of the Tree Commission with us, and I believe they have a presentation and some information for us.
Would you like to come forward?
You want to step up to the,
Yeah, and
just step up to the microphone.
tonight we have Mike Gauss, Whitey Coates, and Walt Smith with us, and we have, you all should have a tree commission, annual report for the tree commission, which Walt is going to speak to, but I would just quickly, because not everybody is here, I would like to just name the other committee members that are not here. Our chairman, Jim Sly, Gary McFadden, our vice chair, Teresa Hernstein, Rich Simpson, and Ann Bonner of the Ohio Division of Forestry. I think once you read this report, you'll be amazed actually what the Tree Commission accomplishes. And in the report, I think they also have volunteered 783 hours to the city of Chillicothe, which does not include also that, because of them, we are able to get our Tree City, USA dedication. I think in here it explains how many years we have received that. So take your time and look at this report. And but I think that they are probably one of the hardest working commissions in the city of Chillicothe, and they see the city in a way that we don't necessarily always see it. And they are doing things for our future and for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to appreciate. And I think we all know we have probably some of the finest parks, and that's what people talk about all the time when they come to Chillicothe. And I think this group is a large reason why. So I'd just like to extend my gratitude to them. They're the most fun commission I've ever been able to serve on, and I'd like to extend my gratitude to the city Park and Rec Department for all the hard work. They seem to get along very well. The city service and the Park and Rec crews work really hard also, and I'd like to extend my gratitude to Bill Bonner and to Pamela Brown, Bill's administrative assistant in the office, because they all work hand in hand really on a daily basis. I think every time I go into the city building, Walt or Whitey's been there before me, or they're just leaving. So they're there a lot. So I'm going to turn it over to Walt right now to speak.
Yeah, before Walt gives you a few numbers which are really staggering, I'll just give a little bit of background information. On February 2nd of this year, the Chillicothe Tree Commission was awarded the Harry J. Banker Gold Leaf Award. This is the only tree commission in Ohio to receive this award. And it is not coincidental. The things that Ms. Corcoran pointed out are more than true tenfold over. Their level of expertise, their level of dedication is really unmatched. They work with great passion, great knowledge, and they look at the big picture and they care about future generations. And we are, as a community, I as a department head, and I would probably say Mr. Feeney as a mayor and you as a council are very fortunate to have this group, and they make quite a difference. With this, as people were saying, Walt Smith, Whitey Coates, and Mike Gass. Walt is our main bean counter. He keeps track of everything and does a great job of it. So I'm going to let him give you some of the numbers, and they really are fantastic. After that time, we will present the Golden Leaf Award to Mayor Feeney.
Well, if you've got a report there in front of you, a couple years ago, the Parks and Rec Department have always put out a report, but with the way things just happened, a couple years they didn't have one. So a couple years ago, I started putting together some reports just to, it started out really for the fellows on the commission, and then it kind of expanded from there. But this is the 2016 annual report. It's just what we do, how much we did. It's nothing more than that. I tried to put some photos in it so the guys won't be mad at me. They get a report and they go through and look at the photographs to see if they're in them, and then they lay it down. But be it as it may, I've sometimes, back years ago, I started making reports the first year I was on the job out of college. And I got so that and I hope this offends nobody, but this is the history of the way I take these reports. I call them Playboy reports, because everybody looks at the pictures and they never look at the content. So I've done that for 35, 40 years. And be it as it may, I hope I didn't offend anybody with this, but I called them that for years.
I told Bill that you had to keep Whitey in check. I didn't expect you to.
So anyway, one of the first things we do, the first things we always do, is that any tree that's on the right-of-way of the city, on the streets, if it's on the right-of-way, the city has an ordinance that covers that tree. And whether you remove it, plant it, or you prune it, it's the obligation of the tree commission people, volunteers, to go out and inspect that tree and see if what the land or the property owner wants, and et cetera, et cetera. Then we approve it or disapprove it. If he wants to remove a tree that's healthy, he probably will say no, and then he'll get mad. But be it as it may, that's the way it is. But most of the time, the trees that are removed, pruned, and then we're planting, I think 3 trees this year back. A property owner wanted the tree put back, or wanted it down. So we do that. Last year, if you look in page 1 there, let me see where I'm at here. 93 trees were involved in 69 different inspections. And that means that normally 2 of us go out. We have sort of learned that going out by yourself sometimes can get you into hot water. So we just learned that 2 of us go out, and that way everything's calm, and we can check the tree over, see if it's healthy, not healthy, what's the owner want to do, and approve it. We come back in, we fill out a report, and we give it to usually Pam, and she fills out a permission report and mails it out to the property owner. It's just like a building permit, similar to that type of deal. So we do that, and that's what you see there in that tree permit paragraph. You can read whatever details that you want. Tree planting last year was a big thing. I show 84 trees there. When I counted them up on my paragraphs there, I only got 83. But I think there's a seedling out there that I forgot about, and I think it's down in Millennium Grove. So it's not there. You won't get 84 if you add up the trees on those numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But anyway, that's where we planted the trees, both on the street. 2nd Street, the trees were totally taken out. They were ash trees and were ash borer trees. We took them out, and with the Park and Rec crew, we dug out the stumps and put new trees back in. There's 20, I think we put in 21 new trees. One of them was concreted over because it was too close to the corner of the street. We took it out. But Millennium Grove got some. Down on Riverside, we planted 30 cherry trees, and this Saturday we'll probably plant 30 more, and that'll make that whole row down Riverside a multitude of cherry trees, 3 different varieties. Then most of this is replacement. On Arbor Day, we always plant 2 trees with the children, and those are down in the Octangie Park. Some of the ash that were removed over the last 3 or 4 years, we'll probably be starting to replace them. I was told by Tony the other day that you've dug out the stumps. So once that happens, we'll probably start replacing individual trees down in the parks that would die. Mostly ash trees. You're familiar with the emerald ash borer, I'm assuming you know what it is. Devastating. You can see on page 4 is stump removal. Up there where the Bobcat is working, we acquired a nice little borer unit, an auger grader planer, and it goes vertically down on the stump, and you ought to watch it someday. It's fascinating to watch. It's a new tool come in from Europe, but we got a 10-incher. We couldn't afford the 36-incher because that was about $80,000, so we just backed off. But anyway, we have one of those, and it's very neat for taking out stumps where you have the concrete. Now where you have soil, just a park, we have another unit, the city has another unit that does the job just as well in that case. But those are some photographs of the stump removal process, and we will be doing the same thing on Water Street this spring. You can see a couple of stump removal methods there on page 6 and 6. up in Western View Park, there's no trees up there, so we went ahead and planted 4 trees. Didn't ask either. We just went and planted them. If you don't like them, go up and cut them down. But the point is, I've never seen a tree grow on concrete or in a nursery. It always grows out. So you got to plant the tree to get it to grow. So it's just a rule. If you want a tree, you got to plant it. Okay, good. As I've said before, the emerald ash borer is a devastating insect. Not much we can do about it. But the last, 3 years, we just decided to spend a little bit of money on 37 ash trees. About $100 a tree per year. You got to do it every year. But we've been doing that, and of the 37, we still got 36. The rest of them around it, down in the park, AEP come in, we cut them down, and they went for firewood. But we have been getting success at this. Now, we're going to watch it one more year. And then if we got success, we'll probably watch it one more year after that. But it's been interesting. The 2 treatments, we have certified treaters, guys that come in. They come in, they're licensed to handle this material. And they come in and treat the roots. And it goes up in the tree. And when the bugs get in there and they bite off the insecticide, away they go. So we're trying that. It seems to be working, and we're so far very optimistic. At least 37 trees, you know. You might say, well, why didn't you treat Second Street? Well, we didn't want to spend all kinds of money, so we just elected to go in the park and do that, and that's what we've done. On page 7, I talked a little bit this last year. The summer heat and drought was fantastically hard on street trees, especially on the west side and where you have reflective buildings. They chewed up the trees on Paint Street, starting with the oak trees there at Huntington and going right up the street on the red maple. And so those are scheduled for replacement as we move through the year there. Hazard trees, Jeff has asked us to look into that a little more, and I put it in here for what we did last year, but the tree at Brownell Street, we just sort of asked the owner, could you do something about it? And he did. He just cut the tree down and did that. Had somebody professional do it. The tree at Pullman, it wasn't on city property, but I asked Rich Simpson, who is a member of our group, who is an AEP employee. I said, Rich, can you do anything about that tree? Because I had a neighbor say that him and his wife didn't like to walk up Pullman. Because that tree was hanging right over. You probably have seen it more than once. And golly nuts, within 2 weeks, that tree was down and it's back safe. The one down on Hickory Street, this is always, you say, where you like to know all about what's inside a tree, and you can't, and we didn't, and the owner didn't either, and that red Chevy Blazer, I think, took a beating of the tree right on top of it, and that was the owner's vehicle, by the way. So we're looking at hazard trees and giving a list to Jeff, and then see what we can do as a city. Because if they're on the property line, it's the owner's total responsibility if you read the ordinance. So it's a little hard to work, but anyway, we're notifying them that way. The Arbor Day celebration is always down in the park, and the fourth graders come in from 4, 5, 6 schools around, about 100, 150, I suppose, kids. And we give them a day in the park with things like that. You can read that detail over. And then we have various things down at Millennium where we have students come in. You have your, what's that day called? Caring Day in the city. And usually we get 5, 6, 8 students that come to the Millennium Grove, and we remulch all 100 trees down there. And always a good thing. Meetings, we attend 4 or 5 meetings a year just to keep up on things where it should involve insects and disease and just urban type things. last but not least, Bill got a grant, he can talk to that one, but we did get $50,000 grant to put a walking path, but a
Kiosk.
shower down at the Millennium Grove, and that's in the process of being done. We prune trees also. We'll take a day and go out and prune trees. You gotta be 8 feet off the sidewalk, 12 feet off of the street. If we don't see that, the land goes right now. Takes care of it. We just set these projects up and go do them. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Otherwise, just.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for your. Thank
So, without further ado, if Mayor Feeney would step up here.
And I think, are you gonna read where that is, where this award is, Walt or somebody?
Well, this is, we, 4 or 5 of us went to Cincinnati to have it presented down there. This International Arboriculture Group, they had a conference down in Cincinnati. And I'll just read one paragraph of what the award expresses, okay? The Harry J. Banker Gold Leaf Award recognizes individuals, organizations, and communities for outstanding Arbor Day activities and outstanding landscape activities, and to acknowledge worthy individuals, organizations, or municipalities for projects which have a significant impact on a community or region over a period of several years. So the Chillicothe Tree Commission met this criteria, and we were presented this award.
I think it's the first one that a tree commission
Yeah.
has received in the state of Ohio.
It's a big deal, folks.
It's a very big deal.
Yeah. Mayor Feeney, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank
Happy
you,
to be
thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. The only other thing that I have with my report is that March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And so I had some fantastic visitors at the office last week. We as a community are very, very fortunate to have the Pioneer Center, their staff, dedication down there. And so, you know, take a minute or a moment this month to educate yourself or become a little bit more about what the Pioneer Center does, or a little bit more about those working or living in the community with developmental disabilities. With that, conclude my report.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in, presenting that award to the mayor, to the city, and Seal. I understand.
Great group.
And now we move on to a report from our auditor, Ms. Crystal Spetnagel.
I would just like to show my support to waive 3 reading rule on agenda items number 7, 8, and 10. Number 7 is to appropriate $6,400 from the general fund to pay for overpayments of refuse collection utility bills. Number 8 is to appropriate $200 from the Parks and Rec Department unappropriated fund, and that is to pay for income tax collection fees that are due to the Central Collection Agency. We have bills due on both items 7 and 8, so it's important that we move that. The last item is number 10. That is a resolution to oppose a portion of the Ohio Governor's proposed 2017-18 budget. The portion that I'm requesting that we oppose is to centralize income tax collection. There are several disadvantages that can happen if that would take place. We need to pass this tonight so we can submit this with other municipalities to show our support for that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Spetnagel. And our law director, Ms. Rutherford.
Thank you, President Arnold. The Law Director's Office, in keeping with our dedication to OBI prosecution, is working with Ohio State Highway Patrol and Chillicothe Police Department and the Ross County Sheriff's Office on a 2-day training. It's called A-Ride. And I believe, if I don't mess that up, it's Advanced Roadside Impaired Driver Education. And it's being offered this week up at OUC, in their Softy program. It's today and tomorrow, and that's going to be repeated again on Wednesday and Thursday. And so far, I think all my staff are dedicated to go up there, and we just want to express appreciation to the Highway Patrol for putting that on and inviting us. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report on. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I have one matter of business to take care of, or could be considered two matters of business. I have been given 2 appointments that the council needs to make. So I do need motions to appoint these people from council. For the Planning Commission, we have an appointment of Lori Clemens to a 6-year term, and I'd like a motion to appoint Lori to that position. I have by Mr. Prohl, seconded by Mrs. Neal. Roll call on that motion to appoint Ms. Clemens.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Patman.
Yes.
Very good. She will be in that position. And also for the Board of Zoning Appeals, I have the appointment of Hank Malone for a 4-year term. The motion, Mrs. Neal, seconded by Mr. Clay. Roll call on that motion, please.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that's about all I have, other than just adding my support for the curbside recycling program that we were presented with before this meeting. I think it's great. Yes, Ms. Gray.
Mr. Malone, what ward does he live in?
Fourth? Is it? I don't have it. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes my portion. We move on to audience participation. We're kind of short in between the 2 meetings, so I don't have a sign-in sheet, but anybody can address council if they'd like. We just need your name and your address. So if anybody does have anything they'd like to present to council, there's a rule that limits presentation to 5 minutes, 15 minutes on a total subject. Anybody have anything they'd like to say to council this evening? Not seeing anybody, we move into old business. Does anybody have any old business they'd like to address this evening? Not seeing any old business. Our clerk, do you have any petitions and correspondence?
Mr. President, the only thing I have received is I got an email today from the Ohio Ethics Commission reminding everyone to be sure and get your report filed. The deadline this year is May 15th, so you've got an extra month, and you can do all that online. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Very good, thank you. Moving into new business. Do I have any new business? No new business. The only other thing we have then, we move on to committee assignments and meeting dates. We have had quite a few assignments since our last meeting. I will try to go through these as quick as I can without getting tongue-tied. Human Resources, request for legislation to appropriate money to outside contracts to pay an engineer as needed, and also to expand the pay range for the city engineer, starting at the low of $65,000 and keeping the high as is. To Utilities, request for legislation to forego the automatic increase for water rates per ordinance 23-00, and per the recommendation of the committee to increase sewer rates by 4% instead of the 2% for ordinance 22-00. Signed to Safety Services, legislation to accept and appropriate $2,260 from Knox Grant and $75 from the SHIP grant from the Junior Civic League. Utilities, a request to approval of Utilities Department to trade in an old backhoe to purchase a new backhoe already approved in the 2007 capital budget. Engineering, a request to appropriate legislation or action to approve a zoning change that was approved by the Chillicothe Planning Commission. Development, a request for legislation to accept and appropriate $4,022 for a first, from Title First as a payoff for the CHIP mortgage. I think that's on tonight. Request for legislation to establish pay scales for seasonal employees in park, rec, swimming pool, service department, engineering and administration, and utilities. Safety services, a request for legislation to require pawn shops to record items to be pawned on the internet. City services, a request for legislation to upgrade the HVAC system in the city administration building. Technology, request for legislation to purchase a new computer for the transit clerk. For transit, a request for legislation to authorize a proposal with ODOT through U.S. Department of Transportation Transit Administration Tiger discretionary grant and execution of a contract with acceptance. And also for transit, a request for legislation to apply for a grant from ODOT to purchase 3 new buses. And that's all I have for assignments. Does anybody have any committee meeting dates that they'd like to announce this evening at this time? No? Okay. From there, we move into legislation, and I will give that to you. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Paulson, we'll move on with item number 1.
Second reading of an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds from safety levy to general fund on an ongoing monthly as-needed basis to prevent monthly negative cash balances within the general fund and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Item number 2.
Second reading of an ordinance approving the upgrade of telephone and internet services for numerous city offices, appropriating $19,226.40 for costs related to said upgrades and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Item number 3.
Second reading of an ordinance providing for the removal of the traffic light located at the intersection of Hickory and 8th Streets, authorizing placement of stop signs at the intersection of Hickory and 8th Streets, making this intersection within the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, a 4-way stop. Second reading.
Item number 4.
Second reading of an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the Walter H. Drain Company to update the codified ordinances of the city of Chillicothe to prepare up to 40 sets of the replacement pages to update the code on the internet and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Item number 5.
First reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $5,396.85 received as payoff of a CHIP mortgage and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mrs. Neal,
I'd like to ask that a motion to waive the 3-read rule.
seconded by Mr. Clay. Roll call on that motion, please.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
We have waived the 3-read rule. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 6.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $1,200 for annual service and support for the Marks radios used by the Chillicothe Municipal Court and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Florina.
Thank you, President Arnold. As stated in my report, I would like to request consideration in waiving the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Ms. Neal. Roll call on that, on the motion, please.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 7.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $6,400 for refunds of deposits and overpayments to the refuse collection portion of the Utilities Department for the remainder of calendar year 2017 and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll,
At this time, I'd ask that we please waive the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Ms. Patrick. Roll call on that motion.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick, Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 8.
First reading of an ordinance appropriating $200 to the Parks and Recreation Capital Fund to cover income tax collection fees due to the Central Collection Agency and declaring an emergency. First reading.
I'd like to waive the 3-read rule.
Okay, I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Corcoran. Roll call on that motion.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Motion has passed. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that legislation has passed. Number 9.
First reading of a resolution granting use of the city park and surrounding streets from Wednesday, May 24, 2017 at 5 o'clock p.m. through Monday, May 29, 2017 at 2 o'clock p.m. for preparation, operation, and cleanup of the annual Feast of the Flowering Moon and providing for coordination of its events with the City Parks and Recreation Department. First reading.
That item will move on. Item number 10, please.
First reading of a resolution strongly opposing a portion of the State of Ohio Governor's proposed 2017-2018 budget, which proposes centralized collection of net profit tax returns and other provisions related to the municipal income tax, which will cause a substantial loss of revenue needed to support the health, safety, welfare, and economic development efforts of Ohio municipalities, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll,
I'd like to ask that we please waive the 3-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Patrick. Roll call on that motion.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that motion is passed. Roll call on the legislation, please.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that resolution has passed. At this time, Mr. Clay.
Pursuant to Rule 24A2, to consider the purchase of property for public uses, make a motion that we go into executive session.
I have a motion to go into executive session, seconded by Mr. Florina. Roll call on that motion.
Clay,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Florina,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
We are moving to executive session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come out of the room for executive session. I need a motion to come out of executive session by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mrs. Gray. Roll call on that motion.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Okay, we are now out of executive session. Ask once again, does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Mr. Clay,
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Florina.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call on that motion, please.
Clay.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Florina.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Kearney. Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
Folks, we are adjourned. Have a great evening.